I gave them everything. Then they gave me 10 minutes. My name is Graham Ellis, and this is the story of how I lost the job I built for 15 years and what I chose to build instead. It began with a calendar invite. 10 minutes. No agenda. No subject line. I knew what it was. I'd seen it happen to others, but I never thought I'd be on the list. Logan Pierce, our new CEO, was 34. Harvard grad. No scars, just polish. He sat behind a desk that hadn't existed a month ago. Glass chrome impersonal. We're restructuring to maximize investor alignment, he said. Your position is being eliminated. Effective immediately. No warmth, no questions, no thanks. I didn't argue, didn't ask for clarity. I just stood, nodded once, and walked out. Security followed me down the hallway. As I turned the corner, I saw Alicia from HR, a woman I'd worked beside for over a decade, duck her head and pretend to be typing. That hurt more than the words. Inside my office, I packed slowly. Family photos, old field notes, a carved wooden fish trophy from a 2018 retreat with OmniView Developments, one of our biggest clients. A note from Erica Dalton at Redstone Finance thanking me for saving a delivery when her team was under fire. 15 years. Reduced to one cardboard box. I paused at the door, looked back at the empty space. I didn't cry, but something inside me unhooked. Driving home through the edges of Austin, I expected to feel free. Instead, I felt untethered. You spend your life holding up a roof. Then one day you walk out and it's still standing without you. And you realize it always would have been. I started at Stratus Uniform Group when my son Miles was still in middle school. He's 27 now, an architect in Denver. And that job, it was my second family. It wasn't just a paycheck. It was my promise to build something that mattered. Back then, Stratus was a startup trying to sell uniforms to banks and health systems across the Southwest. The Southwest division was bleeding out when I arrived. I had 8 people, an old van, a warehouse with a leaky roof, and one instruction: fix it or shut it down. For 3 years I drove, 150 miles in every direction, face to face, handshakes, late-night shipments, and broken zippers. I listened. I solved problems that spreadsheets didn't even list. We grew. 8 became 20, then 30. I promoted people from within. Morgan Liu, our call center rep who could calm a furious client in 5 words, became our top account manager. Luca Reyes, a design intern who sketched his way into a full-time role, now ran the department. They weren't hires, they were investments. We weren't a team. We were something closer to a tribe. And we delivered. Every quarter, every KPI, every last-minute panic that headquarters forgot to mention. $5.6 million in recurring contracts. Over 80% renewal rate. Clients who requested me by name. Then came the merger. A firm called Crestwell Holdings bought out Stratus. New board, new systems, new leadership. Logan Pierce came in with buzzwords and consultants in tow. I gave him a chance. But from day one, he never looked up from his dashboard. He asked about metrics, but never about relationships. He called the way we handled clients unsustainable. Two-person dependent. When I tried to explain that's exactly why we kept clients for a decade, he blinked like I'd spoken a different language. We can't scale based on trust, he said. Trust doesn't show up on P&L. He was wrong. He just didn't know it yet. 2 weeks before the meeting, he asked me for a full account breakdown. I gave him everything. Contract values, retention windows, growth opportunities. What I didn't include: the time I personally inspected OmniView's first shipment at 3 a.m. The call I took while burying my father because Erica was in a crisis and needed answers. The dozens of moments where we didn't sell uniforms, we rescued businesses. You can't measure that, and I wouldn't try. So when the email landed, I was ready. I just didn't know what would happen next. The morning after I was let go, I sat at the kitchen table in silence. Hannah, my wife, placed a mug of black coffee in front of me and touched my shoulder. You okay? I nodded slowly. I think I will be. I opened my personal laptop, not the one they'd taken, the one with real names. Personal emails. Little notes, birthdays, children's names, preferences, past mistakes I'd fixed before anyone noticed. Then the phone rang. 9:32 a.m. Erica Dalton, Redstone Finance. Graham, please tell me you weren't affected by this restructure. I was. Silence. Then a sharp inhale. Who's taking over your accounts? I don't know. Another silence. We have a renewal coming up. 6 weeks, I said. Right. We only stayed last cycle because of you. You know that, right? I didn't answer. Can I call you back later today? Of course. I walked back to the kitchen. Hannah glanced up from slicing tomatoes. Work. Clients. Already. I nodded. I think they're more surprised than I was. That afternoon, more calls came. Harold from Omniview. Stephanie from Elara Health. Michael from Southwell. All of them asking the same thing. What happened? What now? Can we talk to you going forward? I answered every question honestly. Never slandered Logan. Never threw Stratus under the bus. Just the truth. By the time the sun set, I had 6 missed calls from Logan Pierce. I didn't call back. That night, I opened a new spreadsheet. But this one wasn't about clients. It was about options. Companies who had reached out over the years. Names who said, if you ever decide to move. And one more tab. New venture. Blank, but waiting. This was no longer about survival. It was about ownership. Of time. Of reputation. Of what came next. When people realize they've underestimated you, they don't apologize. They panic. 3 days after my termination, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Not with job offers, with fallout. Clients were calling, team members were texting. And Logan Pierce. He was spiraling. I ignored the first few calls from him, but by the 5th voicemail, I pressed play. Graham, I think there's been some misunderstanding. A few client issues have come up, ones that I think could use your insight. The board is concerned. I'd like to explore the idea of a short-term consulting agreement. Paid, of course. Call me back. His voice was tight, but it wasn't concern. It was fear. That same afternoon, I met Derek Shaw for coffee. He used to be CFO at Stratus before the merger. Now semi-retired Derek still had friends in the building, people who talked. He didn't waste time. Logan's in full damage control, Derek said, stirring his coffee. Redstone and Omniview sent formal letters. They're not renewing. I blinked. That fast. You were the account. No transition plan. No trust in leadership. They're walking. I nodded slowly, half proud, half sick. There's more, Derek added. Logan's telling the board you sabotaged the company. Said you contacted clients and told them to cancel. I looked up sharply. That's a lie. I know, he said calmly. But he's panicking. And when execs panic, then they start rewriting history. Later that night, I sat with Hannah on the back porch. Cool air. Moonlight on the deck. I showed her the spreadsheet I'd started. At the top, a new name. Canyon Thread Co. A competitor. Smaller, but growing. Headed by Ethan Rowe, someone who'd reached out twice in the last 5 years. He had vision, and more importantly, values. I remembered his last message from a year ago. If you're ever looking to build instead of maintain, call me. The next morning I did. He answered on the second ring. Graham, I heard what happened. Their loss. My offer still stands, but I'd like to sweeten it. Go on. Senior VP. Equity. And full control over your relationships. Your way. Your system. No interference. I stayed silent for a moment. One condition. Name it. I want to bring 5 people with me. My core team. Done, he said without hesitation. That same day, a letter arrived. From Stratus's legal department. It was veiled, but threatening. They claimed I'd violated my non-solicitation clause. That I was interfering with their business. That I should cease all contact with current clients or face legal consequences. I didn't panic. Instead, I forwarded it to Victor Grant, a longtime friend and corporate attorney. He called me within the hour. Graham, this is scare tactics. I reviewed your old agreement. There's no non-solicit language, just a standard 6-month non-compete and Canyon Thread. Not on the restricted list. You're clear. In fact, if they push this, we can push back for wrongful termination. No transition plan, no documentation. Courts don't like that. I exhaled for the first time in days. That night, Morgan sent an email. Subject line, you should see this. It was an internal presentation leaked from someone still at Stratus. Dated 2 weeks before I was let go. It laid everything out. Slide 4, my position marked Eliminate Q2. Slide 7, raise prices 15% on legacy clients after renewals. Slide 12, division relies too heavily on relationship-dependent revenue. Transition to system-driven model. Cut senior staff. Replace with scalable hires. Morgan's name was there. Luca's. 3 others. They were planning to erase everything we'd built. Not because we'd failed, but because we'd succeeded in ways they couldn't measure. I printed the slides, sat at the kitchen table. Hannah joined me, read in silence. They were going to dismantle it all, she whispered, and let you take the blame. I nodded. My phone buzzed again. Logan, board meeting tomorrow. We need to talk. Please call. I didn't. Instead, I called Ethan back. We're in. The next 48 hours moved fast. Offer letters were sent to Morgan Luca and 3 others. All 5 said yes without hesitation. They resigned from Stratus quietly, professionally, but with steel in their eyes. Meanwhile, I set up non-client meetings with old contacts, not to poach, to reconnect, to listen. Erica met me for lunch near her office. She didn't wait for the menu. We're not renewing with Stratus. The only question is where we go next. I held up a hand. I can't solicit you, not yet. She smiled. You don't have to, but if a new home shows up, we'd love to follow. It wasn't just about me. It was about the way we worked, the trust we'd earned, the fires we'd put out together. That doesn't vanish because someone else owns the paperwork. By week's end, I had 5 lunch meetings, 5 quiet confirmations. None had received a single call from Logan or his team. They weren't being salvaged, they were being abandoned. Then came the escalation. Monday morning, 10:43 a.m. Logan Pierce showed up at my house. I was in the garage rebuilding the brake line on my old '67 Chevy. He pulled up in a black Mercedes jacket folded over one arm. We need to talk, he said, voice tight. This has gone too far. I wiped my hands, stayed calm. I thought I was gone, not sure what more you need. Team members are resigning. Clients are bailing. The board's on me. That sounds difficult. He swallowed hard. We'll beat any offer you've received. Better title, better pay. Just help us stabilize this. I closed the hood. It was never about money, Logan. Then what? What do you want? I met his eyes. Respect for what we built. A conversation, not a dismissal. A chance to transition my team, not blindside them for spreadsheet margins. He paused. The moment stretched. That presentation was just exploratory, nothing final. Then you won't mind that we left. I turned toward the house. The board will sue you. Sue Canyon. This isn't over. I stopped in the doorway. Ask yourself, Logan, what costs more? Letting me go or making this public? He didn't respond. And I didn't look back. When you stop waiting to be invited back, you can finally start walking forward. A week after Logan showed up at my garage, I officially joined Canyon Thread Co. No orientation, no slideshow, just a key card, a welcome folder, and a handshake from Ethan Rowe. Build it like you did before, but this time with your name on it. The first week felt like stretching muscles that had been frozen. Our team, me, Morgan Liu, Luca Reyes, and 3 others settled in fast. We didn't waste time decorating offices. We built structure. We mapped out clients. We fine-tuned systems. We hired 3 junior account managers. Trained them personally. No middlemen. No fluff. While Canyon Thread was smaller than Stratus had been, the culture was different. No forced culture surveys, no buzzwords, just clarity. The best kind of leadership where people are trusted more than frameworks, and where numbers exist to reflect relationships, not replace them. Meanwhile, Stratus was unraveling faster than I expected. Derek Shaw texted me a link one morning. Thought you'd want to see this. I clicked the headline. CEO Logan Pierce resigns amid contract losses and internal restructuring fallout. The article was clinical, but the details weren't. Redstone Finance gone. Omniview gone. Southwell and Elara pending exit. Southwest Division down 41% in revenue. The board had accepted his resignation effective immediately. No farewell post, no press release. Just a quiet exit for a loud executive. Later that day, I got a message from Cal Becker, the CFO, who had once just patted my shoulder and walked away. The board's meeting tomorrow. Would you consider a conversation? I didn't respond. There wasn't anything left to say. Instead, I focused on building. Our first big win came just 6 weeks into our Canyon Thread tenure. Redstone Finance signed with us. Same services, same pricing, but now, trust was included in the contract. Erica sent a short message when the ink dried. We followed the person, not the logo. 3 days later, Omniview followed. Then Southwell. Then Elara. We weren't stealing clients. We were receiving them. Because when you do right by people, they remember. Even if it takes time. Internally, Canyon Thread grew fast. Ethan approved every hire I proposed. He encouraged ownership literally. By month 4, we proposed an employee equity track. He didn't blink. Do it. Morgan and Luca co-led the pilot. Janice, who joined us shortly after, began drafting a rollout plan for year-end. We weren't just getting contracts. We were becoming something harder to replicate. A culture where people mattered more than margin. One afternoon, I stopped by our warehouse floor where orders were prepped manually before shipping. I saw a junior staffer, Luis, walking a package back to repack it because the label wasn't straight. He didn't have to do that. No one was watching, except I was. I asked him why. He shrugged. Because they'll see it before they see anything else. That night, I stayed late and updated our internal memo. What we send out represents who we are even when no one is looking. We posted it on the break room wall. Back home, things were lighter. Hannah smiled more. We ate dinner without checking phones. Miles, our son, called with an update on his Denver project, a new sustainable housing complex. How's the new job, Dad? Good. Building something. That'll last. He paused. Like you always said. Week by week, the calls from Stratus slowed, then stopped. But the damage didn't. Derek called again. You might want to know Kestrel Group is looking to sell Stratus's remaining assets. Stock's down 22% since your departure. Buyers. None serious. They're trying back channels, even mentioning your name. I sighed. Too late. Then came the letter. From Eleanor Barnes, chair of the board. Graham, we now recognize the strategic error made. We would like to formally offer you the CEO position at Stratus Uniform Group. Full autonomy. Equity stake. Board seat. Name your terms. I closed the letter. Didn't respond. There was no version of going back that would have honored what was lost. Sometimes, the best form of power is silence. Instead, I walked into Ethan's office the next morning. They made the offer. He looked up. I assume you declined. I nodded. I didn't even blink. He smiled. Good, let's keep building. Later that day, we finalized Canyon Thread's acquisition of Stratus's Southwest Division. A press release followed. In a strategic asset purchase, Canyon Thread Co. acquires former Stratus operations, reuniting key talent with their client base. We didn't mention Logan. We didn't brag. We didn't need to. The market had spoken. That evening, I drove by our old office. The Stratus sign was gone. In its place, Canyon Thread Co. Same bricks. New future. I sat across the street and watched employees exit at dusk. Smiles. Laughter. Momentum. People I'd once trained now leading departments under our new banner. I didn't need a title. I didn't need credit. I just needed this. To know that the people I'd once led were now thriving without compromise. Later at home, Hannah met me at the door. You went by the old place, didn't you? I nodded. Closure, she asked. Better, I said. Direction. Just because you win doesn't mean you forget what it cost you to get there. 6 months after I joined Canyon Thread Co., we hit numbers that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Contracts up 37%. Client retention over 95%. 3 new regional offices. And the Southwest Division, once nearly gutted by Stratus, was now our most profitable unit. But this time, success didn't feel like a race. It felt sustainable. Because we weren't chasing every dollar. We were choosing the right ones. Morgan had taken over operational oversight. Luca was now head of design. Janice, who joined us 3 months in, was our client experience director and had built out our training academy for new hires. We were no longer rebuilding. We were shaping something bigger than any of us expected. And yet, even in the noise of growth, the quiet always came back. Sometimes late at night, I'd sit in my new office and think about the people who'd been left behind. Good people at Stratus. People who had trusted leadership. People who hadn't jumped because they still believed someone upstairs would do the right thing. That betrayal still sat with me. Not mine. Theirs. One afternoon, I received a message on LinkedIn from a name I hadn't seen in over a year. Thomas Worth, a mid-level manager from my old division. Hey Graham, hope you're doing well. Things aren't great over here. Morale is shot. They're pushing out the last few who were loyal to your systems. Just wanted to say you were right. About all of it. I didn't reply, not because I didn't care, but because I had nothing to add. Sometimes silence is the most honest answer you can give. Then one day, something unexpected happened. Miles, my son, flew in from Denver. He hadn't been home in months, too many deadlines, too much pressure. We had dinner, talked work, architecture, design, leadership. At one point, he asked me a question that stopped me cold. Dad, if they hadn't fired you, would you have ever left? I thought about it, and I realized I wouldn't have. I would have stayed, even as they hollowed out the culture, even as they replaced value with vanity. I would have tried to fix it from inside a system that no longer wanted fixing, because that's who I had been, loyal, even when it wasn't returned. After he left, I sat with that realization for hours, not in shame, in awareness. Because if I hadn't been pushed, I never would have found what I have now. Sometimes betrayal isn't a collapse, it's a release. A week later, Ethan Rowe pulled me aside after our board meeting. The numbers look incredible, he said, but I want to make sure we're not burning the fuel too fast. You good? I nodded, then paused. I've been thinking about something. Go on. When we're ready, I want to offer long-term equity to frontline staff, warehouse, shipping, design assistants, everyone. He didn't hesitate. Build the model, I'll back it. That became our next project, ownership from the ground up. No stock options, no one understood. Real shares, real voice, real stake. We called it the Threadline program. Luca designed the brand. Morgan built the system. Janice crafted the education rollout. By the time we launched it, over 120 employees had opted in. And that was the moment I stopped needing validation from my past. Because we weren't just succeeding. We were creating a new definition of success. Of course, news still found its way to me. Stratus had been picked apart. Kestrel Group had offloaded what little remained to Gravora Holdings, a name known for asset stripping, not revival. The company I gave 15 years to, gone. A name on a file folder, a ghost in a spreadsheet. Then came the final ask. A letter, this time hand-signed. Eleanor Barnes, the board chair. Graham, this is my final appeal. We're dissolving the remaining units. If you would consider returning even in an advisory role, we believe you're the only one who can restore what's left of the relationships. She included a number. High. Tempting. Too late. The next morning, I called a team meeting. Just the core. I laid it out plainly. They want me to come back, but I'm not going. Because what we're building now is already the future. No one flinched. Morgan just said, they're asking for loyalty they never gave. Janice added, they didn't lose the business. They lost the people. That afternoon, we took a new team photo. Everyone from execs to line workers stood together. No suits, no labels. Just builders. Later that night, Hannah met me at the door. How was today? Important. I showed her the letter from Eleanor. She read it slowly, then looked up. You kept your promise. Which one? To build something that matters. I never needed revenge. I just needed the truth to stay standing when the noise fell away. 1 year to the day since I was let go from Stratus, I stood in the Canyon Thread headquarters looking out over a building that used to belong to someone else. The old Stratus Southwest Division office had a new name, a new team, and a new culture, but the bones were the same. And that felt right, because we didn't need to tear everything down. We just needed to rebuild with better hands. We'd now fully integrated the team, restored lost accounts, and added 5 new enterprise clients. More than that, we had implemented the Threadline program, our employee ownership model. It changed the atmosphere overnight. The guy on the loading dock, he had a stake. The design intern, a future. The frontline teams weren't just clocking in, they were building equity in something they helped shape. It wasn't about giving away power. It was about sharing purpose. I walked through the floor one morning and saw Luis, the same junior staffer who once fixed a crooked label on his own. He was mentoring a new hire. It's not about perfection, he said. It's about pride. That stayed with me. Later that week, Miles called from Denver. You sound different, Dad. How so? Lighter. I thought about that for a moment. He was right. Because I'd finally stopped carrying the weight of trying to prove something to people who were never looking. And yet, even after all this time, the past still tried to find me. A message came through from Cal Becker, the old CFO from Stratus. Gravora's pulled the plug. What's left of Stratus is being liquidated. He added one more thing. They're listing you as one of the creditors. I raised an eyebrow. Apparently, in the rush to patch revenue, they had reclassified several account portfolios under a shared legacy clause, which meant they owed me, not just for unused stock options, for unpaid performance bonuses that had been frozen pending review. $126,000. A year ago, I might have chased it. Now, I emailed Cal back. Donate it to an employee fund if there's anything left. He responded with just one word: respect. The closure didn't come in a courtroom. It came in the quiet. In being able to walk into my office at Canyon Thread and know every decision, every client win, every team meeting was built without fear, without compromise, and without needing permission. A few weeks later, Ethan and I sat down for coffee, the kind of meeting we did often, no agenda, just conversation. "We've come a long way," he said, looking around the open atrium. "And not once did we need a rescue." "Nope," I said. "Just clarity and time." He smiled. "You planning on sticking around a while?" I leaned back in my chair. "I'm not done yet." That month, Janice launched the next phase of the Ownership Initiative, a mentorship track for workers from non-traditional backgrounds. It was her idea entirely. We'd pair veterans, career changers, and displaced workers with skilled mentors in operations and client care. We called it the Second Start program, because for many a second chance doesn't come with a job offer. It comes with a belief. One morning, I pulled out a box I hadn't opened in years. Inside, the fishing trophy from OmniView, a photo of my team from 2016, the handwritten note from Erica at Redstone, and a folded printout of the termination email I received that morning from Logan Pierce. I held that email for a moment. I didn't shred it. I didn't frame it. I placed it back in the box, not as a wound, but as a reminder. Because closure doesn't always come with applause. Sometimes it just comes with the ability to keep walking. That afternoon, I sat down to review our quarterly performance. Growth ahead of projection. Team satisfaction highest since we started tracking. Client loyalty 98%. And yet the number I was proudest of wasn't on the spreadsheet. It was the number of people who said they finally felt seen, heard, valued, safe to grow. You can't fake that. You can't model it. And you sure as hell can't spreadsheet it. You have to live it. Later that day, I walked outside. The sun was dropping over the Austin skyline. The warehouse lights flickered on across the street. And as I locked my office, Luis passed me with a clipboard. "Heading out," he asked. "Just for the night." He grinned. "Good, you've earned it." Driving home, I thought of Hannah probably already prepping dinner. I thought of Miles maybe sketching his next project under Denver skies. I thought of everyone who'd trusted me when it cost them comfort to follow. And I thought of those who didn't. Not with bitterness, just understanding. Because not everyone sees you clearly the first time. But that doesn't mean you shrink. It means you keep showing up until the world, or at least your corner of it, learns what steady looks like. I pulled into the driveway, stepped inside, and smelled garlic and rosemary. "How was your day?" Hannah asked. "Simple," I said. "And that makes it rare." Later, as we sat on the porch with tea in hand, she looked at me and said something I hadn't expected. "You never needed to get even. You just needed to get back to yourself." I smiled, because she was right. And this time, I wasn't chasing anything. I was finally home.